Welcome to Sew Very Easy. My name is Laura, and the quilt behind me is made with half square triangles. Now, there are many different ways of making half square triangles. You can make them 2 at a time, all the way up to 8 at a time. And there's lots of different ways of making them. And Quilt in a Day has a ruler that we've been able to make half square triangles out for a long time. Now, they do have a new version. So today I would like to share with you how the old one works, and then I'm going to show you how the new one works. And then once that's done, I'm going to share how to get those half square triangles going around in that point. Now, the pattern is also from Quilt in a Day, and it's called Circle of Friends. It's a really great pattern. And then when we finish that quilt, I'm going to be able to show you the quilts that were sent to me by Judy Jackson. There's this one and a few more. I think you're going to want to stick around and see them on what that one pattern can really do. I think the most popular way of making half square triangles is you start with your square, you draw a line from corner to corner, and then you stitch on each side of that line using a 1/4 inch. We then trim that apart, open it up, press it, and then square it up. And to make that trimming easy, we've had this ruler out for a long time. And how it works is we're going to still cut that square in half, but this time, before we press it, we're going to square it up. And the lines on the ruler are going to help me with that line up. So it won't matter what size I'm going to square this up to. I'm going to use that appropriate size. So let's look at that 4.5 inch. We have a 4.5 inch line. That line goes on the stitching line. So you can see that 4.5 inch mark. It's going to go on the stitching line, not on that raw edge. And it doesn't matter where that goes, as long as it's sitting on that line. Then I trim off these 2 edges. Once those 2 edges are trimmed off, when I press that open, I'm going to have a perfect 4.5 inch square. Doesn't matter what measurement you use or what side you use, you're going to end up with that perfect square. Well, the new ruler takes the dog ears off for us. It is going to work the same way. I'm going to take that line where I want the finished square to be, and in this case, let's do a 3.5. That 3.5 inch is going to go on the seam line. I still need to trim off this outside. So if I open that up, that will be a finished 3.5 inch square. However, before we lift up and move that ruler, we have these little wedges, these little keyholes that we're going to be able to go in and cut off those wedges right while this ruler is down here. So I've trimmed off the edges, and now I can just put that rotary blade right in that little keyhole and cut out. Now when I lift it up, those little dog ears are already cut for me. Now when I press that, that's a perfect 3.5 inch square with those dog ears cut out. So I have half measurements on one side and the regular measurements on the other. And we do have other little markings if you have an unusual size. So it won't matter what size I trim down. I'm going to be able to go right in and trim those dog ears. So that is now a perfect 2 inch square. This cuts up to a 6.5 inch square, but if you have some real small ones, this will cut to the 4.5 inch square. These rulers can be used with any pattern that needs to make those half square triangles. Just depends on the size that you need. And of course, it does come with lots of directions. So these are rulers that you'll get a lot of use out of. So the pattern I'm going to use today is Circle of Friends. Now, it is designed so that you can use the AccuQuilt or rotary cutting. And it's also designed so that you could use a double square up ruler. But today, since they're all half square triangles, I will be using this new half square triangle ruler with those little wedges cut out. So I'm going to be able to cut off those dog ears. And we're going to need 8 different colors with those 4 squares. We're also going to need some solid squares and some long strips. And right for the center, we're going to need a big square. All the sizes are in the pattern. In order for this star to go around in a circle, we need to share one of these blocks with a star point. So we will be able to remove some blocks and then slide that over. So this corner we are sharing with the other block. I would definitely recommend to lay out all of these pieces first, and that way you're going to be able to keep the same colors. And there is a chart that gives you a great layout on how to lay out those blocks. You can now see how this is starting to take its curve because we did share those corner stones, and we have those long pieces to join them up. We're going to have them all the way around the sides. Once we have this whole pattern laid out, we're going to start sewing them in sections. Our sections are going to be our top piece. So we have that 2 long strip and that half square triangle, and that's going to do those 4 sides. From there, we're going to sew these 4 blocks together in the corners. And then we're going to be able to see where we do have these very unusual looking blocks. So when it's all taken apart, you can really see how these are going to fit back together. This is another reason why it is important that we lay this pattern out first on a design wall or a design board, because it is very easy to get those switched up, and then we're not going to have that look of that friendship star going around in a circle. And sew them together in rows. So we have the corner, the long piece, the next corner. The long piece, the big square, and that other side, the corner, that center, and the side. So we will still have those 4 corners left over. And from here you could see how easy it's going to be to finish putting this together. That shorter one will go onto the top and bottom, and then the long sides are going to go on. And when all the sewing's done, we have that beautiful circle going around. Once you've done the one, you're going to be able to build more or just add a frame onto the one. The pattern, of course, does have all of the great pressing and stitching directions, so they all nestle together nicely. And it really is a nice looking block with that star going all the way around. So let me show you some of the quilts that are made with this big block. So the first quilt has 4 of those blocks together. With some sashing, it really does make a nice table topper. But we can take those 4 and put them in a row. That 4 in a row makes a great bed runner, or it would make a great runner for your table. And when you put 12 together, you get this great quilt, and you can really see some secondary circles. So we have the friendship circles and some circles for the center. And of course, we can always make just the one block just to have some fun and celebrate our circle of friendship. So no matter how many blocks you put together, this is really a nice quilt. Yes, they are all half square triangles, but when they're perfect every single time, it makes it easy. And it's a ruler that you're going to be able to use to make any half square triangle following any pattern. It takes all the trimming and the guesswork out of it. I'll put some links in the description to the pattern and to the rulers. And as always, thank you for joining me today on Sew Very Easy. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, and I do have a newsletter, all under Sew Very Easy. And I'd like to give a special thank you to Judy Jackson for loaning me these quilts so that I could share them with you. Thanks for joining me. Bye for now.